For 20 years, a heavy silence hung in the air, a secret carefully guarded, locked away from the world. Imagine carrying a weight on your shoulders for 2 decades, a story you were too afraid to tell, a truth that felt too painful to share. Every day, for over 7,000 days, she lived with this secret. A constant companion in her quiet moments, a shadow that followed her every step. It was a part of her, woven into the fabric of her life, yet completely invisible to everyone around her. Her friends, her family, they saw a woman who smiled, who laughed, who lived a seemingly normal life. But beneath the surface, a story was waiting, biding its time, desperate for the day it could finally breathe. What could be so significant that it had to be hidden for so long? What kind of memory could be so powerful that it demanded 2 decades of complete silence? Today, that silence is finally broken. Today, she found the courage to speak. The secret she held was not a simple one. It was a complex tapestry of pain, regret, and fear. It began on a day that started like any other, a day that promised sunshine in ordinary moments. But a single event, a twist of fate, changed everything. A choice was made, a path was taken, and the consequences of that moment became the secret she would carry. It was a story of a promise made and a promise broken, a story of a youthful mistake that spiraled into something much larger than she could have ever imagined. She convinced herself that silence was the only way to protect herself and perhaps to protect others. She thought that by burying the truth, she could bury the pain that came with it. But secrets have a way of festering. They don't just disappear. They grow in the dark, gaining power with each passing year. The burden became heavier, the silence more deafening. She was trapped in a prison of her own making, and the key was the truth she was too terrified to use. But today, something shifted. Maybe it was the passage of time, the realization that the past could no longer hold her captive. Maybe it was a newfound strength she discovered within herself. After 20 long years, she decided that today was the day. The moment she began to speak, the air grew thick with emotion. Her voice, at first a hesitant whisper, trembled as the words began to form. These were words that hadn't been spoken aloud in 2 decades, words that had only echoed in the private chambers of her mind. You could see the years of pent-up emotion welling in her eyes. It was a raw, unfiltered, and incredibly powerful moment. The truth, after being hidden for so long, was finally coming into the light. It was like watching a dam break, a flood of memories and emotions pouring out after being held back for what felt like an eternity. And what was the truth? It was a story of a painful memory, a moment that had defined a huge part of her life without anyone ever knowing. She recounted a time from her youth, a moment of vulnerability, and a decision that led to a profound loss. A loss she felt she had to hide from the world, believing she would be judged or misunderstood. She spoke of the loneliness that followed, the feeling of being completely isolated with her grief. She had built walls around her heart so high that no one could get in, all to protect this one fragile, painful secret. Hearing her describe the events of that day was heartbreaking. It was a stark reminder of how a single moment can cast a long shadow over a person's life. The secret wasn't about something she did wrong in a malicious way, but about a deep, personal pain she felt she had to endure alone.
Ow.
The emotional weight of her confession was palpable. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face, but they weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of release. It was the physical manifestation of 20 years of emotional pressure finally being let go. For decades, she had carried this memory alone, replaying it in her mind, letting it shape her fears and insecurities. By finally telling her story, she was taking back her power. She was refusing to let the past define her future in secret any longer. It was a moment of incredible bravery. To be that vulnerable, to expose a part of yourself that you've kept hidden for so long, takes a strength that is hard to comprehend. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The pain was still there, of course, but it was no longer a secret. It was a scar, a part of her story, but not something she had to hide in shame. What she had hidden for so long was a story of lost love and a promise to never speak of it again. In her late teens, she had been deeply in love, a whirlwind romance that felt like it would last forever. But circumstances tore them apart in the most tragic way. Just before he left for a job overseas, they made a pact. If anything happened, if they couldn't be together, they would move on and never look back, to spare each other's families the pain. A few months later, she received the devastating news that he had passed away in an accident. True to her promise, she locked her grief away. She told no one about the depth of their relationship or the promise they had made. She mourned him in secret, her heart breaking in silence while the world went on, oblivious to her pain. She kept his letters, his photos, a small box of memories hidden away, her only connection to the love she had lost. After 20 years, what changed was a chance encounter. She ran into his younger sister, who she hadn't seen since they were all teenagers. His sister, now a grown woman, spoke of him, mentioning how she was still searching for answers about his life back then, feeling like there was a piece of him she never knew. In that moment, our protagonist realized that her silence, meant to protect, was actually causing a different kind of pain. It was preventing his family from having a complete picture of the man they loved. The promise she made as a teenager was no longer serving its purpose. It was time to honor his memory in a new way, by sharing the truth of their love. So, she took a deep breath, and for the first time, she told his sister everything. She shared the story of their romance, their dreams, and the painful promise that had silenced her for 2 decades. The scene was incredibly moving. It's women connected by one man, sharing tears of both sorrow and gratitude. The sister finally got to hear about a side of her brother she never knew, filling in a piece of her heart that had been empty for so long. And for our protagonist, it was a release. She was no longer the sole keeper of this beautiful, tragic love story. Sharing it didn't erase the pain, but it transformed it. It turned it from a lonely burden into a shared memory, a tribute to a love that was real and profound. She realized that by keeping it secret, she had inadvertently diminished its significance. By speaking his name and sharing their story, she was keeping his spirit alive in a way that silence never could. This story is a powerful reminder that our secrets, especially those born from pain and grief, can hold us captive. But it also shows that we have the power to break free. It's never too late to speak your truth, to share your story, and to find healing in connection. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to let go of the silence. She carried a secret for 20 years, but today, she finally set herself free. Her story is a testament to the fact that sharing our burdens can lighten them, and that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a profound strength. It's a reminder to all of us to live our truths, because you never know who might need to hear your story. Thank you so much for watching and for being a part of this incredible journey today. If this story touched you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength of the human heart. Your support means the world. We'll see you in the next one.